Hi everyone, my name's Antony Cummins and welcome to this video. Today I want to talk to you about perceptions of the samurai. How do we interact and perceive the samurai from a community or enthusiast point of view? Now, the first thing you should realise, really, is that the is the difference between samurai and the Japanese. Believe it or not, there were actually samurai who were not Japanese back in the day. A very, very small amount, like literally a handful of people. But the point is that even non-Japanese were awarded samurai status, only a very, very small group. Of course, in the main, samurai are Japanese. But also that not all Japanese are samurai. That's the most important thing. Samurai is a status. Japanese is your national identity. And even then you have to question, when did the national identity of Japanese really set in? Of course, most people back in medieval times understood that the world was out there and their islands were, one combined culture. But of course, they didn't perceive themselves as the same as the person next door. They had enemy clans. They had their clan. The clan was more important than the national identity of being Japanese. So you have to understand, when you want to perceive the samurai, is first of all clear that in your head. Not all samurai were Japanese, like a very small amount were non-Japanese. But on the other hand, a samurai didn't look at the Japanese people below them and say, oh, I have an affinity with you because you're Japanese. There was no one else to compare them to. Remember, for most of Japanese history, you get, and any culture's history, you get generally, that culture there, and you get people coming through. Don't forget, in Japan you had Koreans coming in, you had a trade with China, but on the whole, when you walk down the street, you were talking to Japanese people. So once you've cleared that in your head and realised that there's a little bit of a different mindset for the samurai, you can start to perceive and imagine the samurai yourself. The second point I want to make is that the samurai are long gone. They are dust, they are bones, they are an echo in time. There are no more samurai. Once you understand this truly, emotional understanding, it starts to dawn on you that, how you interact with the samurai is quite important, because they are not there today. And you are there today, and you're trying to find an interaction with an echo in time. Now, this interaction is based on your desire. You desire to interact with something beyond your normal circumstances. Now, no matter where you are in the world, you're probably a first world culture watching YouTube, and you can go off to the shop and you jump in your car, and your daily life is very different probably to what you would like it to be. Everybody has the fantasy element, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. Everybody fantasizes about doing something interesting with their life. Now, a lot of this, you take different avenues. Some people pick samurai. So what you have to remember is all of your interaction with the samurai is perception. It's how you perceive. It's not a reality. You are not really a samurai, of course, and the samurai don't really exist anymore. And everything you do, whether it's wearing kakama, go to a class, reading a book, sitting, I'll give you an example. For me, it's sitting in a room alone, reading the manuals, maybe some gothic music on in the background, something to stir the imagination and evoke, the idea of the ninja and the samurai into the reality of my brain, the reality of my world. Try to set my mind inside of the world of the samurai so that I can create it in my mind. Now remember, what is the objective of this? Most of the time, the objective is to fulfill a desire. The desire to have a connection with the past, the desire to imagine something better than your own life, if you will. This isn't just for us, this was for the samurai as well. I'll go into this in a minute, but the samurai imagined ancient Chinese life, and the ancient Chinese masters remembered the masters from ancient times. There's always a human need to be as good as these mythical masters of the past in a golden age. We always have the idea of this fictitious golden age of the ancestors. Even down to Atlantis for the Greeks. You have the Greeks and they have Atlantis, this golden age of civilization. So what you need to understand is, when you interact with the samurai, you are trying to find a golden age. Now, for everyone, that perception is different. You may be thinking, yes, I'd love the complexities of samurai thinking, the honor system. You know, I'd really like to live in a world where it was an honor system was there and it was very much an ordered, structured society. Or you may think, oh, I'm a bit bored, I wish I was in some sort of clandestine operation, killing people, you know. This is the typical reading the war comic style where, you know, you're killing people and you're the hero. Or it could be that it's about high-end polite etiquette and you're understanding the delicacy of art and flower arrangement. These are all desires you want to put into your life, not actually your life. Now, this is not a bad thing, guys. I'm not saying it's bad, and it's not just we, and including myself, who've done it. Nations around the world do it. Some people pick Vikings, some people pick like Zulu warriors, lots of people pick Native Americans. There's this want to connect with a part of the past to fulfill your own inner feeling. And we all know it's nice when you open the manual, like the manuals we've translated, you open it, you start reading it, it's like creeping through the bamboo at night, avoiding the legs of the moon and avoiding the dry grass so you don't make your sound as the shinobi creeps up to the house. It evokes masses of beautiful imagery in your mind, and that's like a drug for some people who love history. It's like, oh, and you can, and if you've not done it for a while, you go to it and you're like, yes, that is wonderful. But of course, you know, you're not in that life. So remember, this is an expression of desire. But also, when you interact with the samurai, it's an expression of mood. If you're in a violent, annoyed mood, you're angry, I'm going from personal experience here, you tend to dramatize, fictionalize, or look at the physical arts, the decapitation, the murder, taking out the bowels, burning. You know, you're really like, you vent anger through a look into the samurai world. If you're feeling a little bit stressed and confused, you may go into the Zen side of it and try to get into, you know, something that's structured and ordered. If you're annoyed with the people around you, you go into the honor system where you want to think, oh, I wish people were honorable like they used to be in samurai times. In reality, back in the samurai times, they too had normal everyday lives. Of course, without doubt, there are points in history where they had dramatic, interesting lives. But it's no different from today. Some people today, while we're watching this video, are moving through, you know, sections in the Middle East, shooting people. There'll be grenades going off. Somewhere is on a submarine, tracking enemy ships. Somewhere is doing something more exciting than what we are doing on YouTube. But the same happened for samurai. Back in samurai times, a guy maybe in his valley, that's my phone going off, I should have put it on silent, in a valley, quite bored, you know, it's coming up to harvest time, the farmers are harvesting, they're waiting, another day in the sunshine, another day, you know, inside a hot room with a fan, no air conditioning because we're in medieval times, a samurai reading through his Chinese manuals, dreaming of the bygone days when there was glorious war. But at the same time, exact same time as that's happening, a few valleys over or 100 miles over, there's a feud going on, a battle, and somebody's dying and killing. There's an exciting moment. So when you think about history, even World War II, there was lots of sitting around, and World War I for days on end, doing nothing, just waiting. Especially naval warfare, where we're just shadowing, and there'll be days of shadowing, getting into position, and then there's a 10-minute or 1-hour battle where everything goes off, and that's the moment of excitement. Nobody fantasizes about the days of shadowing. Nobody fantasizes about sitting as a samurai waiting, you know, for something to happen because you're just bored and there's the gambling house going on. And so you got to understand is that everybody in humankind fantasizes, and more often than not, they fantasize about what will be in the future, or they'll fantasize about what happened in the past, and they'll focus on highlights. This is just the way history works. We love highlights. So for us who love samurai warfare, it's the highlight of a shinobi creeping in, or it's the highlight of a samurai going to battle. So the reason I'm making this video is I just want you to remember that when you interact, no matter how it is, and remember, you are a 21st century person. Your tools of today are the laptop. Your platforms are Facebook and YouTube. You do not, that is your world. You go down the street to the local store, the local shop, the branded market, that is your world. But you are projecting yourself, or even just projecting about the world of the samurai. So I'd just like to give you some advice that when you do it, there's no problem with doing this, and I think it's a very good thing to do, because when you emulate these, fictionalized heroic figures, you produce a better person yourself, and you develop into a better person. This is the idea. Or if you go and emulate the idea of infiltration, you get fitter, go do some climbing, go do something. Basically do something in your life. So it's not a bad thing to interact with the samurai, even though they're long dead. But you should do it from a realistic point of view. Understand that probably it's dictated by your mood, and probably it's dictated by a desire for something inside of your life. So go with that and make it have an understanding of how that's affecting your mind and how it's affecting your life. Because on one day, and the reason for this from a historical point of view is, some days you can be like, oh, the Edo period, bureaucratic samurai sat all fat, laughing useless with a sword. But in reality, that's a generalization. We know that the samurai became more bureaucratic, but that didn't mean that hard, really ferocious samurai didn't exist. To actually so if you come from this idea one angle, one day you might think, oh yes, the bureaucratic samurai of Japan. But actually back then, these are people who witnessed executions, probably have chopped off a few people's heads, and are still in a medieval society where they may have to commit ritual suicide. These are the things they live with in their life. So you have to be careful that your mood and your desire doesn't affect your concept of history too much. So yes, there may have been the fat samurai, but at the same time down the street there would have been the absolute war-obsessed samurai going for it, practicing, keeping ahead of the game, like Chikamatsu Shigenori and his ninja skills, keeping up to date with everything, because he did so much. Again, Natori Masazumi we've spoke of, all these different people inside the Edo period. But at the same time, you've got the warring periods where it was going down and battles. Sekigahara, where we're talking 100,000 men plus, are meeting together on the field of battle. This is a highlight that it just echoes throughout all of Japanese time. So what I'm trying to say is, don't forget that when you find this point, this highlight that you get to, around it in the rest of Japan or the rest of wherever you're thinking about, there's actually normal life going on, like your normal life today. Like when you read the newspaper and something else has gone on in the Middle East, or something in Africa, or something in Egypt, there are crescendo points of excitement. So when you interact with the samurai, make sure you keep this in the back of your mind. Not to check yourself, because please go on with it. Get involved with the samurai. Really, really get involved. Learn the rituals. Learn the Buddhism. Learn the Shinto. Learn the kata. Understand, climb hills, climb mountains, climb, fences. But at the same time, make sure you've got a reasonable and stable view of what you are doing. Okay, my name's Antony Cummins. If you want to keep up with videos like this, just subscribe. I will rant occasionally and things I think about. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you next time.